so I'm Peach. I'm a first year PhD student here at the Woolf and in the Faculty of Divinity. And this presentation, probably for anyone who has done a PhD before, you'll know at this stage there's so many more questions than answers. And when I was writing this, I really sat there and was like, this is a list of questions that I have. So I thought I'd just bring some of those questions to you. I don't know what is making a noise, but I'm going to carry on. Yeah, I thought I'd bring you some of those questions. It feels all quite fractal to me at the moment. Every time I sit down to try and answer one of the questions that comes up, more questions arise. So sorry that it's not a very solid presentation of the amazing things I've done so far. My sort of broad research topic is this. So I'm looking at Muslim and Jewish women's interfaith work. Specifically, I'm kind of interested in whether those spaces provide a type of discussion, possibly a container for a type of agency that maybe isn't found in other spaces. I don't know whether I'm going to find that for sure, but that's what I'm kind of looking at. So this comes out of what I did for my master's thesis, which was I sort of looked at a tension between religious women in faith-based organisations and religious women in secular feminist organisations, and found there's quite a gap in terms of representations and the types of conversations that can be had, particularly in terms of feeling loyalty to different communities in different spaces, but also particularly with feminist, like secular feminism, actually actively being excluded as sort of religiously observant women. So because of looking at that, I kind of started considering whether interfaith spaces might provide that container for different types of discussion, particularly feminist discussion. And I'm particularly interested in looking at questions of like gendered violence, but also anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, those kinds of violence, and whether these interfaith spaces create space for addressing some of that. One of the big questions that's come up for me so far is like terminological. So just this question of like, when I'm talking about these women who've been excluded from secular feminist spaces, what words can I use to describe that? Because conservatively religious, religiously observant, all of these words bring their own kind of baggage. So that's been one of the things that I've just been kind of sitting down and thinking, is like, what words do people use in what context? What words are these women using about themselves and their experiences of inclusion and exclusion? And also another thing I've come across is kind of, what is representation? Turns out that's not very clear either, and definitely speaks to why faith-based organisations might not always represent the kind of views and interests of women. I'm not going to dwell on this really. Anyone who's done anything to do with sort of religious feminism will know there's this background of discussion about agency. A lot of early study of religious feminism or women in religion was like secular feminists being like, why do these women do not what we expect them to do? And that's kind of the background to a lot of it. But I guess one of the things I'm now considering is like, is agency even the right thing to focus on? You know, is it questions of like happiness, of holiness, of goodness, all of those things, do they get a little bit sort of elided when we focus so much on agency? I'm going to skip that one. But the final thing that I've sort of come across a bit is I sort of initially wanted to look at questions of violence, particularly because the secular feminist organisations that really rallied to exclude religious women at times have often been domestic violence charities, and any group sort of advocating around policy for domestic violence. And that's obviously a space where religious women have often been used as a symbol to justify kind of securitization and even like violence towards religious communities, both domestically and internationally. So that's why I'm interested, I guess. That's brought me into a lot of thinking about like, what is violence? Is violence always the language used to describe, you know, these issues of like tension within communities or even within homes, you know? I think that's something that I'm hoping to explore. The way I'm going to approach this is hopefully by some ethnographic research, hopefully going into things. Obviously, Leah Tarragon-Zeller has done really amazing stuff here, and we actually heard from some people this morning who are doing an Encounters project, which is similar things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that, but as I said, it's a time of questions in my research, I guess. Thank you.